Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Stories from the Water. I'm Shannon Keegan, marathon swimmer, coach, wife, mom of 2 boys, and someone who learns more from the water every year than I ever expect to. As we close out 2025, I've been doing what many of you have probably been doing, at least trying to pause, exhale, and notice what the past 12 months have stirred up, washed away, revealed, and renewed. Inside my virtual community, The Water's Edge, December's theme is turning tides, closure, stillness, preparing for renewal. And I thought, what better way to honor that than to share my own turning tides? The ones I lived this year, the ones I tried to resist, the ones that surprised me, and the ones I'm leaning into next. This episode is part reflection, part gratitude letter, part field notes from the water. And if I'm honest, it's also a love letter to this community, to the swimmers at the water's edge, to those I've coached in person and virtually, to everyone listening from all corners of the world. So let's wade in together. If I had to choose one phrase to describe 2025, it would be this. This was the year I learned to trust myself more deeply. Early in the year, I set a goal that felt inevitable, to swim 50 miles in Lake Memphremagog, the lake where my open water swimming journey began in 2009. I knew this would require everything I've cultivated over the past 15 years. Yes, I did the physical work, pool sessions, open water hours, dialing in nutrition, but I also built something equally important around it. Strength training, mobility work, yoga, physical therapy, meditation. And maybe most crucially, I created spaciousness in my days, room to rest, room to integrate. Because the real work, it's internal. It's always internal. I learned that you don't force yourself into readiness for something like this. You step into it. You grow into it. You learn to stay when it's uncomfortable. You learn to soften when you want to fight. You learn to redirect the old voices, the ones that say you should be faster, stronger, better by now. Now, I didn't complete the full 50 miles. I swam for 26 hours and then I stopped. And I wouldn't change a single thing. Because something shifted in those hours. A tide turned. A deeper relationship formed. Not just with the lake, but with myself. Some swims end when you touch the shore. Others end when you finally understand something. This one taught me that I was already enough, exactly as I was in that moment. That lesson about being enough, about trusting what unfolds, has also shaped how I've shown up for this podcast. This year I released 23 episodes, more than I've shared in a long time, and each one held its own kind of wisdom. Maybe you caught my conversation with teenage phenom Lorelei Schmidt, whom I first met during the pandemic. Watching her grow into such a fierce, driven swimmer has been a joy. Or the Brisbane swimmers who tackled the 15-kilometer Derwent River together, surprising themselves with what they were capable of when they had each other's backs. Or Claudia Hansen, whose extraordinary local swim around the perimeter of Lake Tahoe reminded all of us that adventure doesn't always require passports or plane tickets. And do you remember ice mermaid Barbara Hernandez, whose world record swims are inspiring women to take to the water in Chile and beyond? If you missed any of these stories, consider this your invitation to go back. They really are companions for our journey. And speaking of journeys, I changed the podcast name this year. Did you know it used to be called Virtual Swim Practice? And then it was Marathon Swim Stories. And most recently, Stories from the Water. It felt important to honor what the water gives us along the way, not just the striving to swim further. These conversations remind me that this podcast isn't just a show. It's a living archive of what it means to be human in relation to water. If you've been a guest this year or reached out after listening, thank you. You helped carry me through my own turning tides. Speaking of being carried, that's exactly what my communities have done with me this year. Inside the Water's Edge, we spent the year exploring anchors and buoys, thresholds, gratitude, and trust, among other themes. Each month offered a different doorway into presence, resilience, and noticing quiet growth together. This community has become something I didn't even realize I needed. A gathering of swimmers and seekers who aren't just here to get faster or more efficient, though that happens too. They're here to understand themselves, to hear the wisdom of the water. We share wins, frustrations, fears, tiny breakthroughs, and big turning points. And every time someone says, "I didn't think I could do this," or "I can't wait for my next pool session," or "I don't know what I was doing before, but swimming feels so easy now," I'm reminded why community matters. To those I coach one-on-one virtually, thank you for trusting me with your questions, your goals, and your growing edges, witnessing your progress across the miles, celebrating your breakthroughs over video calls, and helping you find your way back to presence and purpose in the water has been one of this year's biggest joys. And for those of you who made the time to travel all the way to visit little old me in Southern Oregon for 3-day repatterned mini camps in the Endless Pool, your presence has shaped my emerging swim studio. We're building something special, one stroke at a time. Which brings me to that studio, this endless pool indoor space I've been planning here in Talent. It's been a major behind-the-scenes part of my year. I had no idea what I was getting into when I started. The regulations, the red tape, the slow-moving pieces. It's tested my fortitude more than once. I've wanted to quit more times than I can count. But like anything worthwhile, I'm learning and growing as I go. And what keeps me moving is the vision. A climate-controlled, serene space where swimmers of all ages don't just get to the other side, but learn how to be in the water, discovering ease, mindful movement, and the kind of transformation that happens at the edge of comfort and curiosity. A place people travel to come home to themselves. There's no opening date yet, but the tide is turning. As I look back on everything this year has brought, the swims, the stories, the community, the studio work, certain lessons keep surfacing. They feel like gifts the water handed me, one by one. Here they are. Trust the process long before you trust the outcome. Striving creates tension. Curiosity creates flow. Attempts are not failures. They're thresholds. You don't need to fight the water. You need to meet it. Community and crew soften the hard parts. Stillness is not stagnation. It's preparation. And most importantly, water doesn't ask you to be stronger. It invites you to be more yourself. So, as I step into 2026, my work centers around 3 anchors. First, stories and lessons. You'll hear more stories and reflections right here on the podcast, of course. And I'll also be writing regularly on Substack, diving deeper into what the water knows and how we learn through it. If you want those pieces delivered to you, subscribe there to stay connected between episodes. 2, community and coaching. The Water's Edge will continue to be the heart of my online community, a place for reflection, support, and shared curiosity. And then there's Swimbound, my multi-month coaching journey for those of you who are ready to rebuild or deepen your relationship with swimming. Whether you're returning after burnout, just getting used to the idea of exploring the open water, or craving a more mindful, joint-safe approach to movement. That is what we're doing in Swimbound, heading to Dominica in March. I'll also keep offering virtual coaching, one-on-one guidance, and conversations to help you bring more ease and awareness or confidence to the water. And of course, I'll be hosting local experiences here in Southern Oregon. Between the Endless Pool, I do clinics at my local pool, sometimes up in Portland, Oregon as well. So these small gatherings that help us deepen our relationship with the water and with yourself. And of course, this studio. This is going to be sanctuary maybe for mindful movement, trying to bring that to life right here in Southern Oregon. It'll be a place for transformation, confidence building, reconnection, and a place to gather stories. There's always stories. Reach more swimmers, have more conversations, and more moments where ordinary people discover extraordinary things in the water. So, as this episode comes to a close, I want to leave you with some of the questions we're exploring right now inside the Water's Edge this month. What tide turned for you in 2025? It might be big, might be subtle, might be something you didn't notice until just this moment when I asked. Whatever it is, mark it, honor it, let it shape how you step into the new year. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for being part of this growing, evolving, deeply human community. And wherever water meets you next, in a pool, in a lake, across a channel, maybe in your imagination, may it continue to show you who you are and who you're becoming. I'll see you in 2026.